Hello, it's me, Dr. Catherine Toomer of Dr. Toomer Talks on Tuesday again today. So, I'd like to introduce myself to those who are just tuning in for the first time. I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer. I'm a family medicine and community health physician, and I'm the founder of Total Weight Care Institute, as well as health, wellness, and weight loss centers. I have several programs, and I help people maximize their health and wellness through weight loss. And I help teach other clinicians how to maximize their patients' weight loss through very targeted health and wellness measures while also serving and earning with confidence. And so essentially, everybody loses weight or gains something in the process. And so hi Tracy, how are you? So today I wanted to talk about GLP-1 medications. I hear there's just so much being said about them. And I know I've been using them for over 10 years. I've actually been on one for over 8. So they're common to me. They're I'm very familiar with them. And so I just wanted to dispel some myths. So first of all, one of the things that we hear a lot is this new weight loss medication. They're not weight loss medications. And I know that we refer to them as that, but essentially they are not. They do not treat weight loss. They treat the causes of weight gain. And the cause of weight gain is glucose dysregulation, which is on the lower end of the diabetes continuum. And that's why they work so well. And for anyone who takes them and they don't work, it's either one of two things. The dose they're on is not high enough. The dose they're on is not countering the glucose dysregulation that's being caused by something else, like stress, causing high cortisol and insulin resistance, and the amount of medication taken is not enough to cover the stress that is causing the glucose dysregulation. And so that's one. The other is that if your weight gain may be caused by something else, like thyroid issue. There's autoimmune thyroid issues. There's other reasons for thyroid issues. And so hypothyroidism is one of the most common reasons that I see resistance to weight loss, even on these medications and even in the face of glucose dysregulation. And then the other is simply that it may not be for everyone. Now, there are very, very, very few people that I've encountered that have had no effect whatsoever. In fact, maybe only 1 or 2 patients out of hundreds. And the reason usually is that there is simply such a strong genetic component to the way that their body handles food and takes food and turns it into fat, that really the medication simply doesn't work, or the other pillars of weight loss aren't being addressed, like sleep or stress reduction or mood regulation or water consumption, calories. People often cut calories down way too low, or they're not eating enough protein. And so all of those things have to happen in order for the best of the best GLP-1s to work. But how do you know if you can use one? How do you know if it's going to work for you? Well, you don't often, unless you already know that you're pre-diabetic or that you have a very strong family history of diabetes. You've noticed that you gain weight very easily with carbohydrates, is very slowly with exercise and other diet changes. And so often what that means is that your body is just primed for making fat out of food. You're just genetically predisposed. And so usually the medication works very, very well for those people. Now, there is blood testing that can be done to prove this. And the way I do it is with a glucose tolerance test. And so what a glucose tolerance test is, it tells us what your body's going to do when it's challenged by the one thing that makes our body make fat, and that's glucose. And so do a glucose tolerance test. And what that is, you get your blood sugar checked. You're challenged with 50 grams of glucose, and then wait an hour and then recheck your blood sugar again. You check your hemoglobin A1C, and if done properly, you check an insulin level at that time. If there's an issue, it will show up in that test. If if anything shows up abnormally in those tests, then you know a GLP-1 will work, and you also know that your body is primed to make fat rather than fuel when you eat food. And it is a genetic component. It is not your fault that you gain weight easily. It's not your fault that you lose weight slowly. Um, and not everybody is the same. Like I mentioned, um, you can have two runners. One could be a sprinter, one could be a long distance runner. They're both runners, but they are definitely not the same. And their bodies aren't going to be the same in order for them to be good at what it is that they do. It's the same thing with medications. It's just going to work better on some people than it does on others. And that's just the way our genetics works, unfortunately. However, one of the best ways of dealing with this is not to have preconceived expectations of what your weight should be. Our body decides what's healthy. Our body decides where it's going to go when healthy. And so just getting a number out of your head and going more based on how you feel, either because your energy level goes up, your sleep improves, your moods improve, your cravings go away, your appetite is suppressed, and not suppressed to the point where you stop eating, but suppressed to the point where you're not being driven to eat all the time because your blood sugars are high. And so all of these things are indications also that these medications may work for you. But again, they do not treat weight loss. They treat the cause of chronic weight gain. And as a result, the weight comes off. And so it's important then to understand what your preconditions are, including thyroid, including anywhere on the diabetes continuum, and also pay attention to all of the pillars of weight loss. Stress, because stress is the one thing that will counter all other activities. And so, and then the other that helps the medication is muscle. Muscle building is one of the best activities you can do for your health. It does several things. It boosts your metabolism. It helps prevent falls later, and that's usually one of our biggest risk factors when we're older is falls. But having a strong core and strong muscles starting now and maintaining it through as we get older helps prevent falls. The other is as we make muscle, our muscle actually gives off its own hormones and different cytokines are what they're called, but I won't get into all of that. The muscle gives off things which actually help improve mood. They help improve metabolism. They help improve our body's regulatory centers, and all the different things that it does in order for us to stay in our best health. And so, even if you don't want to use medication, you can use muscle as medication. If you need both and do both, then that just boosts your results. So again, I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer, founder of Total Weight Care Institute. This is going to be a short one today because, and if you have questions, you can put them in the comments. One of the things I hadn't done in the past, I just told people you can send me questions later. But if you have questions right now, go ahead and put them in because have a bit of time, and I'm sure there's things that other people would like to know. But as we continue, I'm just going to say hello to Tracy and Audrey and Chris. Thank you, Chris, for all your support, and Shay and TK who are here tonight. And of course, there are others who may be watching on other platforms, but I can't see your comments being sent to me. So if there's no questions, I'm just going to say good night. And you can always contact me on my website at drtoomer.com. If you feel that you are struggling to lose weight, that you're doing all the things that you feel you need to do, or you're having such a hard time with, getting the results you want, then call me, let me know. But there is a question, what's your age cutoff for treatment? There is no cutoff for treatment. The medications, especially now, if you have a glucose dysregulation, there's no cutoff. It's actually healthier to take it at any time. And so you can hear Zeppelin barking in the background because he hears my voice. Are these medications okay for people with thyroid problems? Absolutely. In fact, they're very, very beneficial, because what thyroid issues do is it drops your metabolism, and so it makes it very, very easy to gain weight. Now, what your thyroid does do, it makes your weight loss slower, but it is still very possible. Um, and so yes, it can be taken, and they especially the ones with the GIP, which is Manjaro or Zepbound, they have a component which helps with inflammation. And so if you have an inflammatory or um, an autoimmune um, diagnosis, they can actually become very helpful. Um, a lot of people have said that their flare-ups have gone down, their headaches have gone down, um, their moods have improved, and so it does very well. Yeah, hypothyroidism, which is low functioning thyroid, just decimates metabolism. So medication, yes, can help if there is glucose dysregulation going on as well. However, the other most sure way of reversing the effects on metabolism of hypothyroidism is with muscle. Building muscle will counter anything that's going on. It says, what will happen if you take the GLP1 and don't eat? Well, what happens eventually, it will stop working. Um, because if you stop eating, your body's designed to prevent you from starving. Our brain is wired to prevent us from dying. And the two things that can really kill us are not eating, starvation, and the other is being eaten by a bigger animal. So those are the two things that our body really fights against. And so if you stop eating, then your body goes into starvation mode. And what that does is it tries to hold on to every single calorie you eat. So it's sort of the same as if someone gives you money every single day, you're more likely to spend it. But if you're given money and you don't know when you're going to get it again, you save it. Our body does the same thing. And so, and the other question I often get is, what happens if you come off the medication? It really just depends on your behavior when you're on the medication. The only thing that can replace the medication is a body reset. As the weight comes off, your body just has a new set point and decides it wants to stay there. In which case you may just go down on the medication or take it less frequently. However, or you may come off. But the one thing that can help come off is muscle. But even then, as you get older, it may not be enough to keep your body where you want it to be, and therefore you may have to go on it at a lower dose. And so this is where the art of medicine comes in more than the science. We know the science and how it works, but for the individual, you just have to go according to what you think is best for that person. And then for every person, it could be different. And so what's the youngest patient you have treated with GLP-1? The only FDA approved is 13. It is not approved for anyone under 13. And that's only for Wegovy. That's the only one that's been tested. And that's the only one that's FDA approved for adolescents. And they said, oh, I know Saxenda and now semaglutide is approved for teens. I had not known about Saxenda. However, semaglutide, which is Wegovy, yes, that has always been approved. Says, it takes my appetite where I don't feel hungry or thirsty. So what that means is that it drops your appetite to the point where you don't want to eat or drink. Either you have to be very intentional in eating and drinking to make sure you get enough calories, which is 1,200 calories or more a day, or you cut back the dose. If it's too high, no amount of weight loss is important enough to make yourself unhealthy. And not eating and not drinking, your kidneys can actually shut down. You can have kidney damage from not drinking enough. So if the dose is making it so that you're not eating or drinking, then you need to come down and until you get to a healthy eating and drinking level. Better to replace the medication than with exercise, particularly muscle building, and then take less medication so that you can maintain a healthy eating habit and healthy appetite. What should be stated on a prior authorization to get Zepbound? Well, you have to have a BMI over 30 or a BMI of 27 with comorbidities, which means either you have some prediabetes, you have hypertension, heart disease, may have an autoimmune disorder. Those, if you can go down as low as 27, but anything over 30, Zepbound is for obesity. As of now, obesity is considered a BMI over 30, so that is all you would need for that. The other is, if you've ever been on a GLP-1 and it has helped bring your weight down, you can use that also to say that it's an effective medication for you, and therefore you would benefit from being on it continuously. So you said I'm still at my first lowest dose. Well, then that's something you might want to talk to your doctor about, or put alarms on your phone every hour, 2 hours, just to remind yourself to eat and drink. So that way you have, you just have to be very, very, very intentional in your eating and drinking. No, I mean, the thing is, if you're having such appetite suppression, that means it's really treating something. That means that your brain has been driven by glucose dysregulation all this time, and now it finally has something to stop it. So the key is, instead of focusing on weight loss, instead of focusing on blood sugar control, focus solely on eating enough and drinking enough. That's your job, basically. Hello, Delisai. Hello, Dreama. Thanks for joining. It says, how did you get this if your insurance does not cover it? Well, if your insurance doesn't cover it, either get a doctor who will fight a little harder for you to get it. Go to one of the earlier iterations of the medications like Victoza, Saxenda, or Trulicity, which Victoza and Saxenda are going to be generic soon. So it's going to be much easier to get. If your insurance doesn't cover, there are some compounds that are trustworthy. I don't trust all compounds, I'll be honest. I only have found one company that I truly trust. Once I found them, I stopped looking for others. So I don't know. But I can tell you the pharmaceutical companies are fighting the states to ban them. Some of them need to be banned because they're so horrible. And it's not regulated. So it's so easy for people to get scammed and to be put in dangerous situations. And so it took me 6 months to find a reputable compound pharmacy that I trusted. And it's the only one that I trust, and enough so that I have family that I trust with it. Otherwise I wouldn't go with them. Do you recommend calorie counting? Should we focus more on macros? I personally do not like calorie counting, only because I've just found over the years in helping people that when people focus on calories, it becomes almost obsessive. Eating should be intuitive. Eating should be a joy. Eating should be self-care. So when you start counting calories, suddenly it becomes math. It becomes a chore for you to now focus on food as something other than something to be enjoyed. It becomes your enemy when you start looking at food as every little number. And so it's more important to focus on macros. You maximize your protein and healthy fats. If you maximize your protein and healthy fats just by sheer balance alone, you're going to drop your carbs. I don't believe in dropping carbs in and of themselves, again, because you're focusing on what you can't have. Focus on what you can. So anything you want to eat, whatever it is, should be primarily healthy fat and protein. If it's not, add some healthy fat and protein until it is. And that is the easiest way. And that's really how I've lost over 100 pounds, have kept it off, eat whatever I want. I just don't eat it whenever I want. Or however I want. So, like yesterday, a perfect example. Yesterday, I wanted rum tres leche ice cream, and I knew I had it in the fridge, and found out that there were some Chessman cookies in the house. And so, which I'm glad they're hidden now because I don't have much willpower around them. So I knew I wanted that for dessert. So what I did is I had a meal that was absolutely carb free, and so that I could have my ice cream and my cookies and not have a problem because I had already preloaded with healthy fat and protein. And that's really how I've done it for years and years. And that's how I've managed to keep my weight off and stay healthy and get the calories I need and the nutrients I need, because that's really what's most important. Um, Says, I don't eat enough. It makes me nauseous when I don't eat a whole serving size. Maybe it's time to just spread out your dose. Talk to your doctor about spreading out your dose because you can't lower it. So just maybe you need to spread it out some and then become more intentional with your diet. Because again, GLP1s are really good medications when they're treating something that they need to treat. However, you don't want to take a healthy process and make it an unhealthy one by not eating and not drinking. You can cause serious kidney damage by not drinking enough water. If your urine is dark yellow, and especially if it starts turning brown or turning red, it's really a problem. Your urine should be light yellow to clear like water to know that you're hydrated enough. As long as you don't have any restrictions like a heart disease that says that you should restrict your fluids, you should be drinking enough so that your urine's clear. And you should be eating enough so that your body can function like it's supposed to and it doesn't shut down because it's trying to conserve energy. And so that's at least 1,200 calories. You cannot get all the nutrients you need under 1,200 calories. And if you're someone who's short like I am, where 1,200 calories is actually more than your daily need for calories, then that means it's time to build muscle and make muscle so that your calorie need becomes higher, because muscle requires a lot of calories to maintain itself. What is the best protein to add? Whichever one you like. I like beans. I think vegetable proteins are really the healthiest, and you can either get them as a whole protein like beans or soy, or you can combine them. So there are certain combinations. You can go online and find the list, and it will tell you how to combine grains and greens together to make a whole protein. And that's really important. There's also a doctor out there. Her name is Dr. Amanda Adkins, Adkins, and she specializes um, in plant-based eating, and she really is good at telling people or helping people eat whole proteins through plants. So if you want to go plant-based, I would suggest finding her and seeing what she does, because that is truly the healthiest way to go. Do I follow more like a low-carb diet? I don't believe in diets at all. You should eat a diet that is healthy. And low carb, okay, so essentially, low carb simply means that your carbohydrates are 25% or less of what you're eating. Now, you can do that one of two ways. You can cut way back on your carbohydrates, or you can increase way up your proteins and healthy fats. So if you want to eat half a cup of rice or a cup of rice, just make sure that there's 3 cups of something else with it, of meat and vegetables with it. So then that 1 cup is only 1 of 4 cups of food. And so if that's too much food for you to eat, then you just cut down all of it, but it's not necessary to start cutting back on carbohydrates. Just add protein and healthy fats until the carbs is not the most of what you're eating. It's a good idea to spread it out. Spread what out? The urine is light, not clear. Okay. So just keep that up. And but I still say would consult your doctor if you're really struggling with eating and drinking. That's a discussion you need to have with the doctor or prescribing physician. You are an amazing doctor. I'm a registered dietitian, and you have helped me build a nutrition assessment. Thank you so much. Oh, thanks. I'm glad. Yeah, it's really important that as many of us as possible are helping in a way that's healthy and honest and not exploitive and not shameful. Many times in this field, we tend to use fear and shame as a way of motivating people. If you don't do this, this is going to happen. And if you don't do that, then this is going to happen. Or you have to do this. Otherwise, the world's going to fall apart and all the sky's going to fall. I mean, there's just a lot of that. Or it's, if you do this, all you have to do is XYZ. And so if you can't lose weight, it's because you're not doing those things. When we know that's not true. We're human. We're not perfect. We're not machines. We have our ups and downs. And so it's really important that whatever you do, you can pivot anything that around anything that happens in your life, because that is real life. It's not the same thing every single day. So the question is, how much water should you drink a day? The general rule is half your body weight in ounces. So you just, so for example, I weigh about 113, 114. So half of that would be what? Uh, I probably shouldn't. So about 60. I drink more than 60 ounces actually. So let's just round it up to 120 because I'll do the math easier. So that would be 60 ounces. However, I drink more than that. So, but then I also have congestive heart failure. So from pregnancy from 20 years ago. So I also have to be very careful with my fluids. So, but for most people, it's half your body weight. If half your body weight is under 64 ounces, ignore that and just drink more than 64 ounces. If your half your body weight is more than a gallon, ignore that and just make sure you drink less than a gallon of water. Too much water is just as dangerous as not enough. You've said, thank you so much for your suggestions. You are such a great find. I appreciate your videos. They're very informative. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it because there is a lot out there that's false, and there's a lot out there that's not true, or there's kind of half truths. And often it's people selling something for you to buy, and they're the only thing that can treat whatever it is. Yeah, so I really would like, I'd like to know that there's information out there that people can use. And it's also changing. So sometimes as information changes, so will my information. Are you able to help people get the compound, or do we need to go to our own doctor? It really just depends. So I do free consultations, and what I do is I assess how I can help. And if I can't help, then I'll tell you how you can get your doctor to help, or I'll do both. And so, yeah, whatever I feel you need, I'll just give you suggestions as to how you can get it, or what you can do to determine what you need. And that's what I do in my consultations. So then that way, what your next step can be. And if your next step is if you want me to do it, there's ways that can happen. But if you prefer, because I do not take insurance. So if there's a way you want it done with insurance, I'll guide you on how to do that too. The bias is so overwhelming. I'm working hard to help patients get on the kidney transplant list before they die. Nephrologists are not. Yeah. GLP1s really are such a wonderful medication. The only, and it really does. I don't often talk about myself, but in my medical things, but I 23 years ago, one of the reasons that started my weight loss journey was because I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure with pregnancy, which is not uncommon. It's not a common diagnosis, but it happens. And I was 220 pounds. I'm 5 feet tall. My BMI was over 40, and I was on insulin as a diabetic. I needed to do something. I started working on my weight, which was basically getting my blood sugars under control, letting my body follow. One of the things that happened is my heart improved on medication. And then all of a sudden, as I got older after menopause and all these other things, my heart function dropped. And my cardiologist put me on a transplant list. So I was on a heart transplant list, but I was also on a GLP-1. At that time, Victoza was the one. And then I was on Ozempic. I'm not sure when it happened, if it was Ozempic and then Mounjaro, but my ejection fraction had gotten so high, I'm no longer eligible for a transplant. That's what GLP-1s can do. So if you have an inflammatory process, it improved my heart function. And it wasn't from weight loss because my weight hadn't changed much. It was just to preserve my ejection fraction. And I'm pretty sure if someone has kidney disease, that it would do the same. And I just wish that more physicians would study it and get on board, because it would save a whole lot of money, which is probably why they don't do it. But that's another soapbox. I won't get on that one. But oops, that's That's my cue. So thank you for joining in. Again, I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer, family medicine and community health physician. If you want to contact me, you can through my website at drtoomer.com. That's drtoomer.com. And there's a way to contact me. I or my assistant will check the messages, or you can call my office and schedule a free consultation. And that's 803-226-9010. And I'll put that in the comments on each of the platforms so that anyone on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn can find me. So good night. Have a good evening, and keep your questions coming. I'll answer them even if we're not on, and I'll just post a response. All right. Good night.